The British are coming. The British are coming. The British are coming. Oh my God! What are we gonna do? The British are coming. The British are coming. The British.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, a show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game.
And I'm not gonna make a joke this time.
Ready? Let's meet the panel.
Hi, I'm Larry.
Hi, I'm Austin.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Josh.
I'm hungry as well.
Alrighty. If you're good, we can go out to eat.
Yay!
Careful.
Yeah. No.
Today we are going over a work of poetry.
I like poetry.
It is called Paul Revere's Ride by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And
He was a long fellow.
his beard was pretty long.
Yeah, that's
I'll
what
say that much.
That was a bad pun I was
Long
making.
bearded fellow.
And we're going to talk about today, do you feel that this poem is an accurate portrayal of history or a glorified one?
You forgot to say the sugar-coated version. And I personally love sugar. You can probably all tell. I kind of feel it was a little bit of both. But, I mean, yeah, you're mentioning there is a war going on. But the reason I think it's sugar-coated, I love sugar. Oh, God. Anyway, I mean, poems do rhyme, but this one, you know, and it had a meter to it. But, you know, that's another reason why I'm like, I mean, I'm on the fence, actually. I'm kind of on the fence.
Isn't it true that Paul Revere was not actually the guy who made Paul Revere's Ride?
He was not alone.
No, he had an accomplice.
I have a lot to say because I read this poem as younger and I was in school, and what I was introduced to the historical inaccuracies of the poem was just they never said the British are coming because they were the British. They would have said the redcoats are coming, and so
The
that
regulars are coming out.
Yeah, and so that was my introduction to okay, so this poem isn't 100% how it happened. But then as I got older, I learned a lot more, and talking about Paul Revere wasn't the only one. If I'm correct, which I could be wrong, but it was a large group of people, and Paul Revere actually stopped pretty early on. They met at a bar to meet up, and he was like, you know what, I don't think I'm feeling this anymore. Y'all go have fun.
There were two of them. It was him, William Dawes, and Samuel Prescott. And Paul Revere was actually detained by the
That's
British.
what happened, yeah. No, you're right. So he didn't quit, he was detained. I apologize to Paul Revere and the Revere estate for diminishing
Paul
the name.
Revere was not really he wasn't he wasn't a very successful motivator either.
Mm-hmm.
He was some kind of military leader, and he was removed from his position.
So, yeah, that's another reason I would say it's sugar-coated.
I think that there
Like
are
Fruit
things,
Loops.
it's much more specific, but I think that it all comes down to what your goal is. And in this case, Longfellow wrote this right before the Civil War, and America was broken. States were seceding from the Union. And in order to bring people together, he created a legend out of someone who was not really legendary.
Question. And it might come off funny or stupid, but they call it the Civil War. Why is a war civil? And I'm not saying that to make a joke or anything. I'm just thinking
There was conflict
I mean,
between the
yes,
North and the South,
yeah.
and the object was
And if it was the most
to
deadliest war, or
keep the country together.
yeah, but a war is not civil.
The-
It's not
I
like,
think
I'm
that-
going to kill you now. So, well,
I think they
like
just
you.
use the term civil to mean it's within one nation because
Okay.
other nations have had
Now I
civil
see.
wars, and that's when one group is fighting against the other. Kind of like the idea of a civilian within a nation.
Okay.
So I think it has less to do with the idea of civil as in like polite, but more civil as in within a nation.
Okay.
And this ride
my
was-
mistake
it
on that.
A lot of even in after reading this, the notion came off that this all took place in one night, but it took a while. It took a while to put together, and the execution wasn't really. It wasn't someone yelling, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" Which it wouldn't, as you said, it doesn't make sense because most Americans identified as British at that time.
Another thing that I think really plays with what you were talking about with Longfellow was writing this for a very specific reason. Longfellow was born, I checked before, he was born in 1807, so long after the ride would have even happened. And that to me, I was just recently at the Montclair Art Museum, and I saw some historical paintings there that were very nice, but it was so interesting to see paintings of, this scene happened in 1635, but someone painted it in 1778.
Time travelers, they are real.
Yeah, but it was interesting to see that, because that is oftentimes how art is made historically. People will say, "Oh, I'm going to make this depiction to teach people about this thing that happened hundreds of years ago," but meanwhile they weren't there when it happened. And the other reason is a lot of times they will do that to make a certain point. You think about Shakespeare and King Richard. He was writing about this king that he actually never knew, and it was history, but he was making a statement about the government that was there in his time. So he was, taking this historical story and rewriting it kind of in a way to do something specific in today's time, much like I think Longfellow was doing with this poem. He was saying, I'm going to take this historical story and spin it however I want and kind of craft it in a way to, kind of like you said, be able to focus on something that's happening right now.
Yeah, I would say that is, I would definitely say that that's the case. And this kind of notion is relevant even in the making of the Sistine Chapel, I would say. Is, that's how we perceive that's how we perceive Catholicism in many which ways. The images of the disciples of Jesus Christ is through that art, when maybe it was very well inaccurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and done much later.
You said much, very much.
That would be much, it was 1,500 years maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
I
big
think
much.
I think what's interesting is how even poetry like this and like I said, I read this in elementary school, I think, or like 5th grade or something.
Yeah.
And
I actually know. I'm going to follow up on that, because I want to tell you a little project I did in 5th grade. But go ahead.
But so I think that I read this poem in the 5th grade, and I think that how we use literature and things, is how we create history, because we can use these things that are, were used for a very specific reason, but then we might hold on to them, and we kind of, end up rewriting our history however we want. I mean, history is nothing else but, whatever we decide to make of it.
Right, what stories
because
survive.
we're the one, what stories survive and who wrote it. But I think it's so interesting, because I think, just like you said as well with Sistine Chapel, I think much of, at least our society, my society, that we live in, it is kind of like that. It's, okay, here are these stories that have shaped it, but maybe they were written, years and years and years after these things actually happened. So I think that's something very interesting in this poem. When you know a lot about the poem, that it kind of does is it kind of opens your eyes to how we look at history and how we record history and all of the above.
In the 5th grade, this is when I read it, and I actually did a mini project. We had to do a project on this, I brought in a snare drum, a little drummer, and I had the little tricorner hat, It was, I'm like, Mom, why don't I bring it? Of course, this was before puberty. Hey, Mom, why don't I bring the drum in? I'm just kidding. I love joking around, but still, I brought in the drum, and I read the poem, and I made some attempts at it, But this was, I honestly think this can also be taught not just in an English class, but also in a history class. And of course, there's those interconnections as well. And that might be stating the obvious, which I'm very good at, but I brought in a little snare drum, and I did something like that. Just kind of like what I did for my individual video back last season. Check it out.
Okay.
That was what we had to do. We had to make it our own, and I did. I remember I got the A+. I'm like,
Good.
of course, the drum is now,
Anybody have any thoughts that they want to bring up?
1 if by land, 2 if by sea, and 3 if they were in the air.
I think one thing that I think is so
I'm out of the third.
one thing that I think is so interesting is that this is oftentimes one of the poems that people remember Longfellow for.
Yeah.
And I think that's so interesting because I think that he has, and no disservice to this poem, but I think he has so much more interesting work than this poem. But at the same time, kind of like you said, I think during the Civil War there was a whole lot of things written that were historical for very, pointed political, moral, whatever, morale, I should say, reasons. The Battle Hymn of the Republic, same thing. It became popular on the time because it.
Trying to bring people together.
Yeah.
That's
So-
how Whitman was known for writing commentary poems.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Captain, my Captain.
Mm-hmm. So, I think that's.
So what,
interesting.
I'm not too familiar with some Longfellow.
Well, I'm awful with names, honestly. I've just read some of his other work. I mean, the other one that's really popular, he wrote the To a Waterfowl. That's the other one that everyone. That's what was him, right?
Which one?
To a Waterfowl.
I'll have to check that one up. I know there's one of them with some exotic name.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, and I can't remember the name of it.
Oops.
What was it? Now, was it one that was about death?
It may have been.
Because I know what you're talking about, and I can't. Like I said, I'm terrible with names of poems.
It's all right.
But I believe I read that one, and like that's also one that I think is very interesting, and
He's worth looking into.
Yeah, I would say I do want
Yeah.
to read more from him, and I think this is a great way to get into new writers and poets is through a single short work of theirs.
yeah, I agree. I think
It's that's first spark.
That's like when we went over Cheshwak Miwash in Where Christian Looks in the Ghetto.
Yes, I remember
Yeah.
that work.
That was it's kind of like I read that, and now I want to read more.
Right.
So, and then Sylvia Plath, one we're familiar with, but it's good piece by piece,
Yeah.
and it's a great way to get into particular. I'll leave a link to the poem down below for you to check out. And it's probably in plenty of collections, whether it be Longfellow collections or the anthologies.
yeah.
Alrighty then, be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.